And this is it.
Here we are.
We're back at it. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Cover Band Confidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less here in Atlanta, Georgia. Barely. I'm Adam Johnson.
Here fully in Greensboro, North Carolina, and not an inch anywhere else. Dan Ray.
So for those of you who are tuning in, this is just one of those Murphy's Law kind of situations, but it's not really quite Murphy's Law because it's not a matter of preparation gone awry. It's a matter of last minute, like things you want to do that just don't work. So I talked about this last week where you had invested all of this money in the new mic and the new interface and all of these doodads and all of that stuff.
Yep.
And coupling that with the need for me to do some vocal work, I began to develop a case of interface envy. And so I just literally purchased an interface on eBay on Monday, and it showed up literally like 3 hours ago.
And so you're using it right now?
I'm using it right now. This is the Apogee Element interface with my Soyuz microphone launcher, mic launcher, into the SM7B. So this is like a full like professional signal chain, and all of you guys are going to write back to me and say, it sounds just like last week.
That's right.
You idiot.
That's all right. You spent a lot of good money to have it not be any different.
I mean, my hope is that for the singing and stuff, it'll make a bigger difference in that, once I get it dialed in, basically nothing is working the way that my previous rig worked. I can't hear Dan through the interface. I'm actually like round robining the whole thing. It's a whole mess.
It's a whole mess.
None of this matters. You guys don't care.
No.
And then my camera stand wasn't working. It's a whole thing.
And I can, those of you who are watching the live stream, I can see right through your beer can.
Oh, that's right, because it's green.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, for those of you who can't see, I am having a Sweetwater 420 extra pale ale.
Just roughly the same color as your green screen.
Indeed.
Which is currently showing Pee Wee's Playhouse, which is pretty cool.
Oh, and the other thing that was funny is that when I was setting things up, I was trying to find a thing to prop up my camera on. And in looking through this, I found an original Pee Wee's Playhouse lunchbox thermos.
It's pretty
cool.
I
was trying to use that to prop up my camera, and it wasn't working. So now it's just a prop.
Thematically appropriate. I think that's the point.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yep. I've had a high gear day as well, but not music stuff. So I stream video in my house using the Plex server system. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I've been running it off of a really, really old MacBook Pro that last week started to sound like a blender.
That's not good.
Chug. It actually literally was chugging. Yeah, it's not great. It was a MacBook Pro from 2008, I think. So I bought myself a NUC, an Intel NUC.
NUC,
Next Unit of Computing. It's a very cheesy marketing-y name, but it's basically a computer the size of a hockey puck, and it's pretty okay. And I ordered it pre-built, which a lot of people will sneer at. A lot of people think you should build these things yourself, but I'm too old and I can't be asked. And so I got it with Ubuntu Linux pre-installed on it, and I've spent this day trying to knock the rust off of my Linux skills. It's been a really long time since I've done any Linux in any kind of real way. So I'm sysadminning again for the first time. But I did, in fact, play an episode of what my kid is super into right now, which is Lego Masters. We watched an episode off of the new machine at dinner time tonight. It was very nice. Yeah, so coming along tech-wise for sure. And I'm learning a lot about my new mic and my new the Scarlett interface. I will tell you, I had a problem in my live stream on Saturday where so my MacBook only has USB-C. Yep. I have an adapter coming off of it that gives me many USB-As, old school USBs, one of which goes to the Focusrite and one of which goes to an SSD hard drive, terabyte solid state hard drive. And I record to that when I'm streaming. So I'm streaming out the thing. I'm fully using all inputs of the interface, and I'm recording on the deal. And 3 times during my show last week, it all kind of lost power for a second and then came back. And
Yikes.
when it did, the phantom power was not turned on when the interface booted up, and it did not reconnect system audio to my in-ears. So I was being heard and my guest was being heard, but I could not hear him.
Yikes.
So the stream was getting all the right audio, but I was not getting good sound from any sound from him in my in-ears. And so I I improvised. And the thing I learned is that when you set up a live stream on Facebook, there's a checkbox called "Do not end the stream." Don't close the post. Don't close the video if the live stream dies. And in fact, right now, because I checked that box, I could kill OBS, come back, launch it with the same key, and it would pick right up where it left off. I learned that on the fly.
Nice.
Because the first time I did not do that, and the second time I did last week. So the things we learn about live streaming as we do. You know, I used to worry about gear dying on stage, and now I don't. I don't worry about that right now.
Yeah, speaking of which, I actually just figured out that I know what's wrong. I knew what was wrong. I figured out why it wasn't working.
Good.
I'm not going to mess with it.
Yeah, no, don't mess with it now. But
it doesn't matter. But yeah, you played a gig this week, and I played a gig this week.
You did.
I did.
Yeah, how'd it go?
It went fine as far as I know.
It sounded good.
Thank you. So the situation it was on Sunday. David McPherson, who is it's funny, I have talked about him in certain circumstances kind of like vaguely, because he is more or less the runner of the local acoustic gig mafia. And we have talked about some stuff, and then he kind of he started listening, and so he kind of became self-aware of like, oh, he's talking about me. So we've had a couple of fun conversations around just the general, way that things are going. But he when this whole thing went down, his business kind of dried up, and he wanted to do something that was helpful to that community. So he started this big fundraiser kind of deal where there were two cities. There was Team Roswell, which is a town close to me, and then Team Woodstock, which is a town a little bit further away. And they were competing against each other for who could raise the most money for this service industry situation. I think was on Team Roswell just based on it, but basically he's doing these like marathon live streams from different venues and places and stuff. And so I got a call around 10 a.m. on Sunday, said, hey, can you play from 2 to 3? And once I kind of figured out if I could or I couldn't, I went ahead and said yes. And then I had to kind of like scramble to figure out the whole live stream situation in my basement, trying to like make it sound good without overcomplicating it. And I actually did something I hadn't done before, which was I ran my PA live, and the iPhone camera did the capturing of the audio.
It sounded good.
Which in that case worked perfectly fine. Yeah. And so I did my tunes and had, I don't know, by the end of it, 100 or so people had hopped on, and it was cool. And hopefully raised some money. I didn't take any tips or anything, so I hope it went to a good cause. And I got some feedback later on that, hey, things went well. It got shared on X number of pages.
Good.
And we raised whatever. I think their goal was $10,000, and I think they're like over 12 at this point. So.
Awesome. Very good.
And that money's all going to the service industry people in the area. So it's all good stuff.
Love it.
And I mean, I feel like we kind of we've reached the point of like quarantine where I don't think, have you ever seen me in a pair of glasses?
Yeah, but it's rare.
Yeah. So I don't normally do that. We did, home haircuts and stuff. Like we are.
I haven't done that yet. As you can, I mean, I'm getting to where I'm nearly you. Those of you watching on the live stream can see the crazy that is my head.
I mean, like Amber did a great job. Like she like did the fade and everything. She like crushed it. She
So I need her to do my hair and my walls. Is what it's
down
to. Yeah, all right.
Oh, speaking of which, we started on the kids' bathroom, peeled the wallpaper off, and have started painting.
Nice.
We basically have gotten to the point where if we did any more work in the house, it would require a permit. So I think we're done for a bit.
That's where you hit the limit. Yeah.
one
Good.
of I think the next thing would be for me to frame out this room and make the rehearsal dungeon the, I don't know, studio.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I don't want to build a studio though. That's one thing I want to, you got to clarify, because having a finished room in your basement does raise the property value of your house.
mhm.
Building a recording studio in your basement does not. So
Really?
don't do it. No, it's too specialized of a thing.
I see.
Like if you have a room that, has a TV and is finished and has like walls and power and that kind of thing, that people see that and they go, oh, this could be a playroom or a workout
Yeah.
room or whatever. If they see a recording studio, they're like, yeah,
I
no,
don't
that's okay.
I don't record.
Yes, this is a room that I cannot use.
Yeah.
So my goal would be to frame the room out so that is a functional room, and then build a studio type situation inside of it.
Right.
So no weird asymmetrical walls that can't be fixed, or putting up a pane of glass, splitting a small room into two way too small rooms.
Right.
Just a nice finished room
Yeah.
that doesn't feel like I'm in trouble
Yeah, I mean
every time I go down there.
most people I don't know, there are those who would enjoy that. Um I think most people who are of our ilk don't. I like what a lot of them do, with a nice desk and some nice monitors, and
Yep.
I think that's pretty lightweight. And I'm contemplating it myself. My space here was okay when I spent a couple hours at it on Saturday, but mostly never sat at it. But now that I'm
Yeah.
here 8 to 10 hours a day every day, it's really not working. So I'm shopping for one of those motorized sit stand desks like I have in my
Hmm.
office, and kind of thinking about how I could make a little more wall room to hang a green screen and turn it into sort of a streaming station. And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking through all that stuff.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have the luxury of having this room that isn't being used for anything else, that I could just throw a giant green screen up.
Right.
Not everybody has that option.
Right.
And I mean, inevitably, whenever we do get to finishing this room off, it will probably stay, or, I could go completely nuts and just paint a wall green.
Well,
I don't think I'll do that, because again, it's one of those, like, do you want this room to be a reflection of what its intended purpose for, or do you want to have a room that's functional that you can then purpose for your own
right.
situation?
Right. Right.
And that, which one is more effective?
How big a
Which one is
commitment
better?
are you going to make to the green screen
Right.
life?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you about that life? Because some of you guys don't have a green screen in your
Look,
basement, and it shows.
some
Okay.
of you just play in the green screen life. I'm
Yeah.
living
Some of
it.
you guys are just
No, you're
straight
living it.
up.
I'm just I have a. Did I tell you about my green screen? I
Yeah.
bought
Yeah.
one, and it's one of those like those tents that
Like the foldy ones.
twist on themselves and
Yeah.
fold
Yeah.
up into
Yeah.
a circle. And I have managed to get it from big to small now 3 times. But if you asked me how I did that, my answer would be persistence. I don't. There is a trick. I don't know it.
But you couldn't tell
I
me what
just
it was.
flail around until, oh, look, it's folding up on itself.
Hey, I did it.
Ah, there's magic. Yeah. That's how I do.
Fantastic.
With that kind of thing, those tension loop things, no matter how big they are. But this one's big. I mean, it's like 7 by 5 feet.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
not small.
no, it takes a lot to a lot of courage, a lot of persistence on my part to keep wrestling with it when it doesn't want to fold.
So yeah, let's see other projects that we did. So I posted a couple things on the Facebook and the Instagram that I put up some guitar hangers.
Yep.
I did shoot an instructional like set of videos, but I don't know if I'm going to post them because they're kind of embarrassing. It was not my best work. And then of course, when you do two of them, you shoot the video while you're doing the first one, and then you do the second one in half the time, but you don't shoot the video, and then you just kind of look like a bum.
Yep.
But I may just do it just because. I mean, why not?
Why not?
Content is content. And then in doing that, I had a 3 kind of circular guitar stand that was up there that I have brought down into the rehearsal dungeon, and now I can leave guitars out down here as opposed to them living in their cases. So that was a bonus kind of benefit for that as well. So
It's good.
the band room has been completely reorganized and cleaned up. and much more functional. And like I said, short of framing it and insulating it and putting solid lighting in, there's not much else to do down
Right.
here.
Right. Right. Well,
And
this is what we're
that's
stuck
it.
doing, right? This is
Yeah,
this is what passes for band activity
absolutely.
these days.
Yeah, you're releasing video content. I recorded guitars for that for a cover project. I have to do some guitar work, which I'm slowly, working my way back
Very
into.
nice.
And
Very nice.
now that I've got all this audio gear for my vocals, I'll start doing vocals probably this weekend,
Cool.
and it'll be ready to go within the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
And we got some cool guys on it. Cooper Carter, who we did the interview with, our fractal friend,
Right.
and then a guy named Cooper Drummer, who 2.74 million YouTube subscribers. It's not nothing.
Not nothing.
So very exciting stuff. Hopefully, maybe this is like the break we've been waiting for. I don't know.
Take us with you.
I mean, if I can, I will.
We'll see.
Otherwise, we'll just keep doing this.
Yeah. Totally.
So,
are we ready to pivot to the topic?
It's pivot time.
I think it is.
Guys, we actually have a thing to talk about.
We do.
And it won't involve, us crying, hopefully. And
we observed in some chat this week about, remember that episode where we were like, gosh, stuff's closing. Wow, how crazy. I hope everything doesn't.
I know. Yeah.
How long could this last?
Well, it's become pretty clear. Yeah. That we're still in it. And so I don't know about where you live in the world, trusty listener, but I live in the state of Georgia. And our governor, for better or worse, has been kind of on the front of opening things back up.
Yeah.
And for us, the social distancing shelter in place order expires tomorrow.
Yeah. And I don't, we've walked a very, very careful line on this show about politics.
Yep.
And I don't want to not do that. How do you feel about that expiration of that order?
I feel like, I feel a number of things about it. I probably won't share my full feelings about it, but in my case, the decision is easy to make because it really doesn't matter what the governor says or the mayors say or whatever. My kids don't have school.
Right.
So I'm stuck here.
Yeah.
For at least the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, I mean, my kid's out of school through the summer.
Yeah.
And so far, nobody stepped up to say we're doing summer camps. So,
right.
As far as I can tell, I'm here till the next school year starts.
Yeah, we're trying to, we've signed up for things in the summer, and
who knows? They
haven't canceled them yet.
Right.
I definitely paid for like a pool membership for the city pool. Don't know if that's opening.
Right.
But like there's a big question mark around childcare and like
it's huge.
All of that. Tomorrow is actually supposed to be our first municipal event of the year for the city of Monroe.
Does that happen?
That it is not.
Yeah.
And they were actually pretty smart. They got on the front end of it and they're like, hey, let's push this back. And so right now I think we're scheduled for like July 24th.
All right.
And I think that could happen.
Yeah. No, I think from where we are right now, that seems entirely like it could happen.
So for big events, I think we're kind of stuck, and that's still going to be a big question mark even after these things kind of start happening, because once most states are doing like a phased rollout of things going back to normal.
Yep.
And my assumption, based on the information, is that live music maybe in some of the markets and some of the realms that like our listeners and us kind of participate in are going to be kind of in like that phase 2 kind of time period.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's hoping, the North Carolina has been more careful than Georgia, I think. And in a way that I'm quite happy about, actually.
Sure.
Science based and based on the numbers and a real plan, and that pretty much mirrors the federal plan.
Yeah.
And the thing that I have my eye on in that is the number of people that can gather.
Hmm.
Which doesn't really grow to like show size until phase 3.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know. I mean, as those things come into existence as we get into the summer, probably more and more of those things are outside, and people are feeling a little more comfortable about them outside rather than
Yeah.
inside, maybe.
Yeah.
But do audiences turn up at this point? I mean, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to
Yeah.
from here. It's really hard to see,
Yeah.
and as with everything else about this, it's just a matter of sort of keeping the faith and hoping it all works out. But I do think that there are probably changes that we will see that are probably permanent-ish.
Yeah. Like what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I hope that I mean, setting aside band stuff and performance stuff, I hope that we have built good hygiene habits that will last us in this.
Yeah.
I know that I have um, bad eating and drinking habits, but good hygiene habits.
Oh man.
Oh man. Fit Day keeps alerting me about entering my meals, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah, Couch to 5K is like, hey, why don't you dust off those
no,
running
that's not
shoes? I was
happening.
like, I don't know. I've done it a couple of times. I did, I've joked about how much I hate running, but I actually have gotten my butt out and ran at least 3 times.
Well, I love running, but I haven't done that. I mean, in theory, I love running. I haven't run in a while, but
I'm doing the yoga every day.
I see that with the toe breaker.
That was something.
Yeah.
That was one of those like where the lady's like, do this now. And I was like, can I do this?
If any of you
and then I was like, I can do
haven't
this.
seen Adam's picture of his, it was quite a yoga pose. It really was.
Yeah. I don't remember what it's called. It's like a preface to like that crazy crow pose where like your feet are above your head and you're like holding yourself by just your arms.
I believe that one's called
that
the influencer.
Yeah. Actually, I hashtag yoga that post and I got a bunch of these like, Lululemon wearing.
Of course you
people
did. Of
liking
course
my
you
posts.
did. Of course you did.
I'm in the mix now.
Yeah, that's right. You're one of the ladies.
Hey man,
look,
yoga's hard.
Yoga's hard. I have done a little bit of yoga. A friend of mine took me to a Pilates class one time, and it straight murdered me.
Oh yeah, no.
I wasn't right for like a month after that.
Don't do that.
It's bad.
Don't ever do that.
It's bad. Anyway, so the point is that like we're going to be coming out of all this stay home business, and I think there are people who hope that we'll come out like a light switch, and we are not coming out like a light switch. That's just the reality. We just got to give up expectations about that. I feel like probably the acoustic market will rebound first because we can social distance as a solo player. Some
of us have been social distancing from the very beginning.
It's always been. The thing I'm trying to work out is how I'm going to do my my karaoke show, because it involves people coming up and singing all into the same communal mic.
Yeah.
And that's a bad idea. That's just it was always a bad idea. And
this just illustrates how bad of an idea it is.
Yeah, we can't do it. So I have a way now, I think, that I can do a request-based thing online on people's like phones and stuff that's touchless. So I don't need a book for them to paw through or a shared pen for them to write with. I can do that without them touching anything, except their own phones, which are grungy, but it's their grunge.
But yeah, exactly.
The question is, do I then do it is it still karaoke if it's a request-based sing-along show? If everybody's singing along from their seats and it's like everybody, but Michael requested the song.
Right.
Does that get me the same thing?
Well, does it get the audience?
Well, no, yeah, I mean that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
My feelings about it are irrelevant. Do they have the same experience of performing and being on the line and being of accomplishment, all the stuff that you feel about karaoke.
Right.
Hard to think that like a full room sing along gets you that.
Sure.
I don't know. We're gonna have to experiment with it.
Y-
But I
Probably for a couple of weeks, you'll get just the novelty of being back together,
totally.
and you'll probably get like a good good reaction from that.
I would hope.
And then after that, you're looking at, is this sustainable? Is this going to be something that like we can continue to do?
Yeah.
Are people gonna continue to be into this?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure I can go back to a communal shared mic situation in good. I can't feel good about that. Maybe forever. I don't know.
So I'll say this. This was something that stood out to me, and this happened. I was still in college when, but there was a place that we would play in Buckhead all the time called the Peachtree Tavern. It's not there anymore. But the owners, Ricky and Brad, are good guys, and Brad is involved in country music pretty heavily. He's managing some very successful artists right now, so he's still in the game. But they had a sound guy who was like legendary. He was a great sound guy, but the first thing he did every single time we got to load it is he would walk over to his little like you know vault of things where like the mics and stuff
The
were,
sound guy vault.
and he
Totally.
always had a bottle of Lysol.
Yeah.
Or no, Listerine. That's what it was. It was Listerine with a toothbrush in it.
Huh.
And every time he got to the venue, he'd pull the toothbrush out of the Listerine and he would brush all the mics.
Smart.
So every time you got to the venue and you got to your mic, it was always minty fresh.
I love that.
And it cleaned up all the germs.
Yeah.
Now, it's one thing to do that once a night per band. It's another thing to do that in between every single person.
Between every song.
Every single song.
Seems unlikely.
You almost have to have like a dedicated like mic washer. So like they would come up and then like you would do like and next we have Sally and she's gonna sing this, and then you have to be like, I remember the first time I heard this song, it was the summer of 1998, and
now here's a song that's brought to you by
all the while somebody's going like
with the toothbrush on that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the alternative
Maybe
is
not.
People could bring their own mic.
BYOM.
Yeah, and I could just mute the channel and people could pull the mic and come up with theirs and plug it in. I have I like the Behringer, SM58 knockoff, basically. That's $20.
Yeah.
That could be the deal. If you're going to sing, show up with your own mic. I mean, that sucks so bad.
It's not
so
great.
not the show, right? But
or you could get like 5 of them and have your dedicated mic washer.
Yeah.
Like have 5 to work.
Rotate them out. That's interesting.
It's a thought.
It's a thought.
And who's to say that all thoughts aren't something?
I think that's the thinking that got us here. I think some thoughts are actually better than other thoughts. We don't need equal time for all thoughts. I don't think that's a thing.
But I tried, therefore no one should criticize me.
No, I'm willing to take the hit on this one. Not all thoughts need to come blapping out of your mouth at the podium of the White House. I'm sorry. What?
Hey.
Oh.
Hey, we already had this conversation earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
Let's pivot.
It's time.
Now, this is still kind of on the same line of thought, which is all right, things are changing. How do we kind of transition?
Yeah.
The unbelievably wise Amber Johnson reached out to me earlier this week, and she said, what are we doing about these leads? And I said, well, what do you mean?
Leads?
She goes, leads, Leads.
Yeah.
Leads. She's like, well, we had some shows that got canceled. We got some shows that got postponed. We had some people that were interested for some stuff, and then things kind of went crazy.
Yep.
What are we doing about those people? And I was like, I've been kind of locked up in this whole prison of my mind thing, trying to keep
I've been,
sanity.
I've been enjoying my 4 walls. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And she goes, "You got to keep them leads warm."
Yeah.
And I was like, "You're right."
Yeah.
She usually is. I very rarely get to be right.
But it works out,
It
doesn't
is,
it?
it does because um, I don't make any illusions about the fact that if she were to just like go away, like my credibility just
Yeah.
evaporates.
Yeah.
I am a shaved gorilla that has fooled people into thinking that I can function in a society.
It is really true.
That is not remotely true.
I'm right with you about that. I'm right with you about that.
Um,
It's dire.
so I was like, that's a great idea. So I got old Ben Ivy on the phone. I was like, hey man, let's go ahead and start reaching out to these people. Let's try to get the ball rolling again. Try to see what we can do about that. And so that was for the kind of small group of people that we were already in contact with and kind of, you know, in correspondence.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that the other thing that you can do about leads that, as far as keeping leads warm, um, there are lots of potential leads that have gone like ice cold.
Yeah.
And how do you get them back on the burner? This is a terrible analogy. As I'm saying it, it's not
It's
working.
the temperature analogy of leads.
Right. So my thought was, and this was my thought in relation to Amber's thought.
Yeah.
So I'll give myself,
Mm.
for those of you who can see this, a very small amount of credit.
Right.
I decided that we should send out an email to our email list, the agency list, which is about 450 people. That was 50-50, like, hey, how are you doing? Kind of empathizing with
Right.
the situation. We hope you're doing well. We hope you're taking this time to spend with family and recenter and yada, yada, yada. / here's what we've been up to. And the things that we talked about were like, we're doing updated promo stuff. We did the YouTube video content. You should follow us on social media. We figured out this whole live stream thing. So if you've got a corporate event and you want some kind of entertainment, we're kind of equipped to do that as well. And just that kind of thing. And then like the last one was spending time with family and with family, and kind of saying, we love playing shows for our clients. It's like the best part of the job, but doing that takes time away from our wives and spouses and children during the busy season, and we're taking this opportunity when it's quiet to reconnect and do that stuff.
Yeah.
And we hope that you're doing the same. All the best, yada yada yada. Sent that out, got about a 30% open rate.
Good.
Which is pretty good, is
Yeah.
way above average. And then I showed Amber, and she goes, hey, does that picture of the Die Corona video link to the YouTube video? And I was like, no, it doesn't. That would have been so good to do.
Mm.
So what I then did is I went in and I edited a couple of things and added a couple of invitations to kind of engage in the copy
Mhm.
of the thing. And then I sent it back out to people who hadn't opened the first one.
Right.
And I got another 20% out of that.
Wow, that's good.
So we had, I think total, we had almost 35 to 40% of our mailing list open and engage with that message.
That's really great.
Which for those of you in the email marketing world is
Super
like
good.
super good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And weirdly enough, I got an email today from an agent in New York. It was like, call me.
All right.
And I was like, okay. I called him, left a message because he didn't answer.
Typical.
But don't know what that means. But maybe something in there kind of piqued his interest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. What I've been doing, I've been thinking a lot about sending an email out to our mailing lists. The thing that I have done is reached out to the bars that I have great relationships with and said, hey, look, I mean, we don't know when, but shouldn't we be planning the big reopening party?
Yeah.
and they're all super in and want to be having that conversation's way more fun than whatever else they're doing right now. So
Yeah.
so we've been having some fun talk about, like, Odin Brewing that we play at has this great big open space behind it that for big events it becomes parking lot, but
Yeah.
the family that owns the brewery owns all of those buildings and all the space behind it, and so pull up one of those band shell trailers back there and do a
Yeah.
something huge would be a huge fun thing. And so we're talking about that, and talking about the if we can manage to have the timing of it work. The anniversary of Pig Pounders opening is coming up,
Hmm.
and I give that about a 60-40 chance of
Yeah.
of happening, just given its timing. But we're having conversations and keeping the relationships alive. It's really the important part. We have these really great relationships that could just go on ice and then come back and have to be rebuilt from scratch. But I am buying takeout beer from these guys a lot, so I'm in
Yeah.
front of them. I'm also self-medicating quite heavily during this crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and then having the conversation about just sort of keeping the game alive, keeping the party that we are up in their brains.
Hmm.
So, I think these things are important. I think you have to the, the pull is to sort of go fetal and you know not do anything, and then just that's probably not correlated with great results at the end of it.
Yeah. Well,
Who knows, it's unprecedented times. Maybe in 6 months everyone who lost their jobs will get their jobs back, and we'll all just
yeah.
come roaring back to life, and things will be as they were. Maybe this will be an opportunity to revisit how our entire economic system is structured, and
Yeah.
to lean into equality and justice. Maybe it's hard for me not to go political at times like this. It's really hard.
Well, I think you can say that like some stuff isn't working for a lot of people, and this situation has kind of
Mm.
exposed that.
Yeah, and hasn't been forever, and here we are looking at it right in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm, doing whatever I can to be optimistic about the
Hmm.
situation. And I think that there is an opportunity for good things to happen out of this,
Yeah.
even though doesn't feel great all the time.
Yeah.
And again, you and I are speaking from a position of
Oh,
privilege because
good
we both
God.
have,
Alarmingly so. Yeah.
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 My boss uh, gave me just Apple paid me $500 this week. It was like, you're doing a great job. I was like, cool.
Thanks.
And then I spent it on the interface. So,
That you almost know how to work.
almost.
Yeah.
This time next week, this thing will be
Ooh,
like
it'll be humming.
it'll be the slickest,
The slickest.
slicker in grease, as we say down
That's
here.
right. That's right. That's right.
But for right now, I'm literally sitting with like a mic stand in my lap. It's a sorry
You gotta make do.
situation.
You gotta get through. That's the point.
Well, I think this current setup has showed me that having a table down here is the move.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not the move, then one of those standing desks situations is the move. And the cool thing would be is to get like, I think Autonomy is the name of the company that I've been looking at. The thing you need to know is that the width of an 88 key keyboard is roughly 48 inches.
That's important to know. I'm looking at a 72-inch desk. That's so, and even 6 footer.
Right. So then you could put like a pull-out tray with a keyboard in it, and you'd have room on either side. Huh?
I like this.
And now you're building a studio in your house, you dummy.
Oh, it's going to cost me, but I'm still thinking about it. Oh my God.
Yeah, standing desk down here would be dope.
It'd be badass.
It would be super cool to have, and it would be really easy to have this set up and easy to move around and that kind of thing. So that would all be good things. Those would all be good things.
I have been looking at ones that have power built into them.
Yep.
And casters.
And
a battery built into them.
Ooh.
Right? So you're powered and you can wheel it around the room or around the house or whatever. That's pretty good.
Well, if you do find that, I'd be interested.
I'll send it to you. It is not cheap.
I was looking at the Autonomy ones because they are fairly reasonable. Like a decked out one is less than $700.
Well, that's good. That's
But like
good.
they start at like $200,
Well, yeah.
which is like basically like a standing workstation, which is
Right.
for a lot of people way more than enough.
Right. I need enough space for a personal computer setup and a work computer setup, because that appears to be what we're doing right now. So,
yeah.
so
I've been doing all of this on my work computer, and my personal computer, which is actually nicer than my work computer, is being used for abcmouse.com and Dogman comics.
It's all about Dogman. It is all about Dogman around this house too. You know what? I've just started.
We're in that world.
I've just started reading her Phantom Tollbooth.
Okay.
And she's super into it, so I'm very happy about that. The Watchdog. We met the Watchdog, and she thought that was hilarious.
So my son, my 10-year-old, I bought him Hatchet.
I don't know.
Have you ever read that book?
Mm-mm.
Hatchet was one of those books that like we read in elementary school. I was around that age. And it was like one of those books that I like. It was probably the first fiction book that I read all the way through. And I gave it to him thinking that like, oh, he'd be into this because it's about like survival in the woods and he camps and that kind of thing. Like he would be into it.
Yeah.
He made it like 30 pages in and hasn't touched it since. And the thing that I keep telling him, I'm like, he's stuck in the woods.
You got to get him out.
You have to finish the story.
It's up to you.
His plane crashed. The pilot is dead.
Oh.
You have to get him out.
There's a monster in the trees and some guy in a hatch. Wait.
That's not what it is.
That's something else.
Hatchet, like a
hatchet.
Handheld hatchet. Like he has a hatchet and he has to survive in the woods.
He's not in purgatory.
No,
okay,
not
good.
yet at least.
Good.
I mean, he technically is because he won't finish read the book.
Narrative so purgatory.
That is purgatory. Yeah, this is purgatory.
Yeah. All right, well, there you have it.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw a couple of things out there. Probably, I think it might be time to do another giveaway.
Okay.
And I was just looking over this way, and I've got a couple of doodads from my trip to the Chicago Music Exchange.
Sweet.
Not really doing anything. If nothing else, some guitar picks
that makes them don't dads.
Right, and a tote bag, like one of those canvas totes.
Sweet.
Maybe we'll give that away. And if you or anybody that you know does podcasts and they need guests, you should ask them to hit us up.
Yep.
Because we're doing this podcast, but it would also be cool to kind of cross-pollinate and do other people's podcasts.
And we're equipped, as you can see, those of you who are looking.
And we'll be better by the next time.
Every time we're better. Every single time we're better.
We guested on the Mike Schulte podcast back in the day.
We did.
And have done a couple since then. So just something to throw out there. If you want to pass the good word along, we would love to talk on other people's podcasts. And that's kind of how this whole thing works. You kind of like cross-pollinate. And
we have opinions about things.
So many things. Stuff we have opinions about things we refuse to talk about.
It's true.
On this podcast.
I am one to bend that rule, but in principle, yes.
Yeah. So I will go ahead and just say something very briefly about this because it is what it is, but we're not going to dwell on it. But this is the literal 100th episode of the Cover Band Confidential podcast.
Currently numbered 101.
It's not the official.
That's right.
But it is the literal 100th episode.
That's right.
A lot has changed. So if I had told you on the first episode, hey, Dan, we're going to do this. We're going to start this. We're both going to lose our jobs.
That's right.
We're going to find better jobs.
That's right.
We're going to meet a ton of people, and then there's going to be a global pandemic, and we won't be able to play anymore.
And we'll both end up with the same really awesome microphone.
Like, what are the odds?
I will admit,
if
when
we had
first
been
started,
in the same room, you would have punched me in the mouth. But you can't because you're very far away.
When we first started, it was hard to see past about episode 5.
Oh yeah.
So it's 6. We knew we had content for a couple of conversations. Beyond that, it was hard to see. And then, we forged ahead with our, there was the two of us and our listener for I don't know, 30 episodes, 40, something
Yeah, it
like
was
that.
like you, me, and Chris Domingue.
Chris Domingue.
That was,
Yeah, that's
that
right.
was it.
That's right. Yeah. And he kept sending in comments. God bless him.
It was great.
It was what we needed because we had no content to talk about of our own.
Yeah.
And somehow it's grown into this, and I look at the numbers these days, and podcast listenership is just brutally down globally. But we still have this bump every week when we put it out. We still, I love that we have moved into where live stream views are kind of counting in our favor, and we're now, you can get the content both live on Facebook, later on YouTube, later on Facebook as a podcast. This is, we're able to hit a lot of different sort of consumption channels, and I think that's really great. I think it's really great.
Well, and like for right now, we're in a situation where we are live streaming on Facebook, and got a couple people who have tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking through the feed, and Phil Smith from that '90s band is, he's doing his live stream right now.
Yep.
The Nick Nespajani from Yacht Rock Review, he's doing his live stream right now. There's,
it kind of feels like Saturday Night in Town, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the mix.
Yeah.
Once again, this whole thing is like, we're just playing gigs in the biggest club in the world.
Right.
And but the cool thing is that, you can just come back.
Yeah.
You can check it out some other time.
Yep. There are a lot of gigs I wish that had, so people could walk up and play later. There are a lot of gigs I'm glad they can't, but
yeah,
certainly.
But I mean, I'll say this, I've seen way more live music in the past 6 weeks than I did the previous 6 weeks before it.
Absolutely.
Because I was busy. I was doing other things.
Absolutely.
Now I can tune in. And it is kind of nice because, like, I want to tune in 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
That's good. That's exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Did you see Kermit the Frog live streaming?
I did not.
Yeah. Kermit the Frog live streamed from the stump with the banjo. He sang Rainbow Connection, and
that's nice.
It was, and then he got up and turned off the camera. I mean, it was really cute. It was really cute.
Like they went for it.
They totally did. And it so I enjoyed that, and it also reminded me how deeply that song is embedded on my psyche, because I was 5 when that movie came out, and that song was everywhere. To whatever extent I was aware of it at 5, but and I used to cover it, and it's been a long time, so I pulled out the guitar and went to Ultimate Guitar and found the tune, and or found something close to it that I could turn into something accurate, because that's how it rolls with Ultimate Guitar.
Yeah.
And I'll probably do it as the opener of my show on Saturday, because I just really love that song. And but it was great to see Kermit live streaming.
Cool.
Made me happy. Did you know that song was written for the Muppet movie and then spent, I think, 8 weeks on the chart with Kermit singing?
Yeah.
And then was covered by a bunch of people. And it's a great tune.
Very cool. What was another song that like shouldn't have charted but totally charted? I was just thinking about this, and no, it's gone. Sometimes you just have it and it's like, no, it's gone.
It's not over about it. But that one should not have charted. It was sung by a Muppet.
Yeah.
I mean, God bless Jim Henson, but yeah.
Well, gentlemen and ladies and others, scoundrels,
rapscallions.
Yeah. We've reached the end of the episode.
The 101st.
Of the 101st episodes, yeah. Once again, thanks for hanging in there. I hope you're doing well. Feel free to email us, coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. Hit us up on Patreon or PayPal if you're liking what if you want to buy, Dan a growler of beer. That is a way to do that. Yeah. So we are taking all kinds of things, and got some cool interviews on the horizon. I've got at least 2 that I'm kind of chasing down.
Sweet.
And then we've got our big 100th episode whenever this whole thing blows over that we will stop talking about at some point, but we're pretty excited about.
Yeah. We'll stop talking about it and just do it.
Yeah. But until then, From Atlanta, Georgia, I am Adam Johnson.
From Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You have been listening to the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, episode 101. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast. If you want to help us, be sure to share us with your friends, follow us on social media, and if you haven't already, please leave a review for us on the podcast platform of your choice. Facebook.com/CoverbandConfidential, Instagram @CoverbandConfidential, and Twitter @CoverbandConfid. If you have any questions, please email us at coverbandconfidential@gmail.com and consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/CoverbandConfidential. And for more info, check out www.coverbandconfidential.com.